This is a video I'm pretty delighted and terrified to be making all at the same time. I'm delighted because I finally get to put a really top-end Adidas speed boot up against a really top-end Puma speed boot, up against what has been the king of the speed boots for quite some time, the Nike Mercurial. It's a fantastic position to be in, to have three incredible boots from the big three brands to put head to head. The problem is that they're all really good. They're all good in different ways, and I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna get this together in a boot battle to try and give you a definitive answer. But hey, I'm not a boot wizard for nothing, and that's what we're gonna do. Hopefully. What's up guys, James here from BootWizard Boot Reviews, and yes, it's Mercurial versus Ultra versus Ghosted in a huge speed boot battle on BootWizard today. This is a big one. So everybody has pretty much accepted that the speed boot is the most popular category of boots out there on the market right now. So most people want to know which speed boot they should go out and buy, and most people are buying a boot from the big three brands, Adidas, Nike, and Puma. So it's my job to put them head to head and help you decide which one is which. I'm going to give you all the information over our BootWizard boot battle categories. So there's a multitude of categories. I'll score them all as if it's a boxing match. 10 points for the winner, 9 points for the loser of the round, and because it's a three-way boot battle, we're gonna go to 8 points for the next boot as well to help you decide which boot you should go out and buy. And finally, for the purposes of the boot battle, we'll be using the Ghosted Point 1 because I think it is a better boot than the Ghosted Plus. It's also much better value for money. And we will be using the Vapor, not the Superfly. They're exactly the same boot, but the Vapor is that little bit cheaper, which gives it more of an edge in the value for money section. So let's get on with it, shall we? Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts before we get going. Which one do you think is the winner? Let's jump in to the upper. Okay, speed boot battle. In a speed boot battle, you are generally looking for a very barefoot touch. That's what we expect from a speed boot, and all three of these boots offer a phenomenal barefoot touch on the ball. They all do it in a very different way. So, barefoot touch from the Mercurial is excellent. It's a very basic upper in terms of it's only a liner and then the outer, but the outer is those two different types of Flyknit, the high tenacity and the softer yarns blended together, which gives you all the lockdown and responsiveness in one package. Very smart use of a knit upper technology. Then you get the Puma Ultra, which is a woven material containing carbon fiber and also Kevlar yarns, which are the aramid fibers, which are all woven together in a very similar way to what Nike have done with the Vapor to give you all of the lockdown and responsiveness in one package with just a very thin, simple liner on the inside. Quite genius. Both one-piece uppers. Then we take the wild card of the pack, which is the X Ghosted Point 1, which has kind of moved away from what the industry seemed to be trending towards, where everyone's gone knit, and it's given us a fully synthetic upper. It's basically plastic, and all of the structure to the boot is within the upper. There's no internal liner. It's one material that's been put together by pressing layers of material together, and you can see all of the check patterns here, which contains a little bit of woven fiber, and it's amazing. They're all three different ways of achieving great lockdown, great responsiveness, and a barefoot touch on the ball, and you're not going to be disappointed by any of the three if you want to go for a barefoot touch. But which one's better? I think without question, the X gives you the most raw, most barefoot touch on the ball with this synthetic upper, and it's something that I really enjoy. And the way that it really wraps around your foot gives you a fantastic tight sensation, which again is kind of what I want from my speed boots. Maybe not for everyone. And I would say that this is the most extreme of all the options, and maybe the most speed boot of all the options as a result. Still very barefoot, although definitely not to the same extent as the X Ghosted, is the Puma Ultra. Now this has an element of padding, especially through the forefoot, which actually has quite a large impact on your touch on the ball, and it feels more padded than you might expect through that area. And then overall, the way that the boot is built, the whole volume of the boot means it doesn't fit quite as tightly to your foot as the other two here, which is kind of very un-speed boot like. However, you get that extra bit of padding, you get that extra bit of volume, which makes this very, very accommodating and a boot that nearly everybody could go out and wear and enjoy. So for the boot that's going to suit most people, it might be looking at the Puma Ultra. And finally, what has been my king of speed boots since it was released, the Vapor 13 Elite. I really, really like this boot. The way that it delivers the lockdown and responsiveness with those two types of yarn, the way it delivers a barefoot touch on the ball, and the way that that one-piece upper wraps around your foot very, very closely is fantastic. It is best in class for a reason, or it was best in class until Adidas dropped this. So I'm gonna put it this way. I think when it comes down to the upper, they both, or all of them, have fantastic elements. They're really, really good, and you can pick up any one of the three, get a barefoot touch, get a responsive boot, get a locked-in boot, and be very, very happy. However, if you want the most barefoot touch on the ball and you want the most speed boot-like feeling, you have to go for the Ghosted, but you are going to sacrifice a little bit of that soft upper and definitely some of the comfort, which you're going to get from the other two options. The Ultra definitely going to be for more people, and the Vapor, I think, is probably the most refined product out of the three. So, where do I score the points? I promised there would be points, and I can't not give the Ghosted 0.1 10 points, because even though it's probably appealing to a fairly niche market with the fit and the way that that upper actually delivers that barefoot touch, and it's not the most locked in out of the three, in fact it's probably the least locked in out of the three, I still have to give it 10 points because it purely delivers a pure barefoot touch, and it's the closest to the ball feeling out of the three. So I've got to give the 10 points there. Now I'm going to try and not cheat through this whole thing and award like kind of areas where they both get 10 points, they both get 9 points. I'm going to try and stick to my system. So I'm going to give 9 points to the Mercurial, which, like, I want to give it 10 as well because it's just so good. The upper is super barefoot. It really delivers lockdown and responsiveness in a fantastic way, and it's just amazing. It's such a good boot, but I'm going to give it 9. And then, unfortunately for the Puma, which again seems so harsh, I'm going to give it 8, purely because of the extra volume in there and that extra padded touch, just feeling a little bit less speed boot. But there's something here for absolutely everybody. Depending on what you're looking for, one of these three boots will do the job while you're in the market for a speed boot. I want to give them all 10. I really do. They're all fantastic. Couple of categories we don't normally cover in boot battles, but I'm going to do it because it's a speed boot battle, and the first one is lockdown. So lockdown is nice and simple. Which boot keeps you the most feeling the most secure in the boot, like you're not going to move? And the winner of that has to go to the Mercurial because it simply does it the best. The way that the whole boot gives you a uniform amount of lockdown is really, really good, and this for me is a simple choice, and it's 10 points to the Mercurial. When it comes to lockdown, the Ultra is also really fantastic, and for me takes second place. It's 9 points. The way that these actual lace loops, which I've not had any damage on yet, are actually connected into the boot almost in a kind of brio cable type way, but done with very thin fibers that run through the cross stitch is very clever, and I think that helps the lockdown, and this gets my 9 points. And then the actual least locked in boot, and it's mainly due to the fact that the lockdown comes from the boot kind of being tight to your foot and less so from the materials or the lacing system. It is definitely the least locked in, but it's still a very locked in boot is gonna go here. So this is gonna get my 8 points. All three also have really good heel lockdown. And again, my only one that I have even a little bit of an issue with is this one, where I feel like the heel lockdown could be a little bit better, but that's probably because I'm being harsh and I'm comparing it to its predecessor, the 19.1, which had mind-blowing heel lockdown. So 10, 9, 8, lockdown, done. Responsiveness, so that feeling of when you plant and go, you make a big lateral cut, maybe you want to accelerate quickly, that the boot comes with you. That usually means that there's kind of like a thicker or stiffer material on the boot, or there's a stiffer outsole, which all lead itself to the boot feeling more responsive. No lag time. It's a very difficult thing to explain, but it's very prevalent when it's on feet. You don't want any responsiveness issues in your speed boot. And here I am 100% cheating because I cannot separate these through. The Puma has aramid fibers woven into the outside of the boot, and while the fit could be a little bit lower volume, which I think would make the boot feel more responsive, the outsole is stiff and rigid. You get a good push off from that area. It's got excellent responsiveness. The Mercurial, once again, those two types of yarns, which give you a really responsive feeling because it is responsive all over. You have no issues here at all. Fantastic. And then the X Ghosted, which for a boot that has so little extra structure, there is just one layer of material. The upper is responsive, and then the outsole and the way that this is stiff and rigid with that Carbotex insert in the forefoot just leads the whole boot to be feeling very, very responsive. I can't separate them. I'm not gonna separate them. It's 10 points across the board. I'm a cheat. I'm sorry. Call me a cheat in the comments. I'll take it. Traction. This is another one that's really, really hard. So we're going to start with, let's start with the Puma because it's there. So the Puma has these chevron bladed studs through the forefoot with some bladed studs in the heel. It's nice and stiff and rigid through the midfoot and the heel. And then it's also nice and stiff and snappy up in the forefoot. It's everything you want from a speed boot. It's excellent. You have a very similar feeling in the Mercurial here, but the studs are that little bit longer. They're also that little bit more aggressive, and the forefoot is a little bit more snappy because of this Aerotrax outsole. So on the whole, the Mercurial I do find to be a more aggressive outsole than what you're going to get from the Puma. The Puma might be better off if you're looking for a bit more flexibility or multi-directional movement, but both excellent, both do things in a very similar way. If we then take the Adidas, which once again throws a spanner in the works, because what you've got here is studs that are less aggressive than both the Mercurial and the Ultra, in my opinion. They're a little bit shorter. They're not quite as aggressively shaped. You don't quite get as much purchase in the ground, which should mean that it would be the least aggressive sole plate, but that's absolutely not the case here. Because of the way the sole plate is constructed with a very stiff midfoot and heel and this Carbotex insert in the forefoot, which is incredibly springy, the energy return on this is absolutely unbeatable. The aggressive feeling from this boot is incredible. So they're very difficult to separate. What I'm gonna do is think about it while I'm talking to the camera, hope for the best. And I'm going to give 9 points to the Puma. Fantastic outsole, no problems at all, but it is definitely bested by the Mercurial. So I have to put that under the Mercurial. I have to. If you're just looking for pure aggressive speed, aggressive traction, it's exactly what we're looking for here, because it's a speed boot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give the Ghosted. The Ghosted's also going to get 10 points. I know I said I wasn't going to call draws, but 10, 10, 9, because what else could I do? Like the Carbotex insole, the way that this boot is built on the outsole is just so good that it's hard to overlook in that situation. The Mercurial is still the most aggressive traction with the best bite, but the outsole on this is super aggressive, and this is going to be, again, the most comfortable option of them, the most variable option, and the option that's probably going to suit most people. So while we're doing a speed boot battle here, and I'm trying to give you options across the board and pick the best objective speed boot based on performance, when you start to put all the pieces together and you wonder, oh, which boot's for me, I think a lot of people are going to be choosing the Puma Ultra, even if it doesn't come out on top in points, just because of all the different elements. It's taking over the title which Jay at Boot Hype gave to the X 19.1. He called that the people's speed boot. It's a great boot for most people. And I feel like the Ultra is taking that title, whereas the X has gone a completely different direction, and now it's a super niche speed boot for absolute speed boot heads and speed boot geeks who love this kind of thing. So yes, 9, 10, 10 with a heavy heart. Wait, this one is nice and simple. Which one of these boots is the lightest? We do want the lightest boot because it is a speed boot and we want it to feel like we're wearing nothing on our feet. So we're going to start with the Puma, which is the lightest boot. It's 160 grams and that comes in, gets 10 points. It is significantly lighter than either of the other two boots, which depending on colorway and size and all that kind of stuff will vary. But in these sizes which I have here, so this is actually a UK 8 and this is a UK 7.5. This one comes in at 190 grams and 195 grams. They're basically the same weight. The X actually feels a little bit lighter just because of the way that when it's on feet and the way that the upper works and the way the stiffness of the outsole works, it feels a bit lighter on feet, like a placebo effect. But they're so close to each other, you're not going to notice the difference. And the only one you're really going to feel the difference on is going to be the Ultra. So 10 points here, and then 9 points each here and here. All right, value. Value is huge in today's market, and is one of the reasons why we have ditched the plus level model from this boot takedown. I think the plus is, the 0.1 is better anyway, and this is significantly more expensive. The Superfly is a vapor with a collar, and you pay more money for this much Flyknit, so we're not going to include that either. It's going to be these three boots here, and they are all different prices. So what we are looking at is a Puma Ultra coming in at 200 euros or 180 pounds, which is cheaper than all the rest. And when you consider what I've been saying about how all of these boots are very good and they're very similar and they all have great aspects to them, I think that this being at least 20 euros cheaper than the next option, which is the X Ghosted 0.1, means that it has to take the win here. For value for money, this is very hard to beat, and it gets my 10 points. I'm very happy to hand those out. As we ascend the pricing ladder, we next get to the X Ghosted 0.1, which is technically still a top-end model. The Plus and the 0.1, they are top-end models. It feels like a top-end model, despite being significantly cheaper than the 280 euros you pay for the Plus level model. This comes in at 220 euros, and I think, considering what's around it, considering that it's an Adidas boot, which is going to cost you a little more than those Puma ones, considering that it is cheaper than you pay for the Mercurial line, it's a lot cheaper than its own bigger brother, the Plus level model. It's in the same market as New Balance boots for the New Balance Furon V6. While boots are crazy expensive these days, and this goes into that category, it does offer fairly good value for money when you compare it to what's around it at full price. So I'm going to give this 9 points because it's not great value for money like I would maybe describe the Puma as, but it's also not awful. So this is going to get my 9 points here, which does mean it brings us on to the Mercurial, which has to get the 8 points. This is 250 euros and is the most expensive boot here by 30 euros, which is a significant amount. And while I think that this is a fantastic football boot, I love this football boot, I can't express that enough, 250 euros is a lot of money, and that's 50 euros more expensive than the Puma Ultra. That is a lot of money to go, and then 30 euros more expensive than the 0.1 is also something to consider. As I said earlier, The Superfly is even more expensive than that. I don't recommend going for the Superfly. So it's quite simple. It is not always good value for money means cheapest. That's not always the case. You always want good quality product for your money, and all three of these boots offer really high quality product that I would be happy to recommend. So therefore I'm happy to give the cheapest one the highest number of points and then work up accordingly. 10, 9, 8. Looks. Now, if you've watched the channel for long enough, you will know how the looks in the Boot Wizard boot battles go. I give you my opinion and then I score them all the same, because the looks is so subjective and it shouldn't affect the outcome of which boot you should buy, in my opinion. In this particular instance, I think that the Ultra, because of its shape actually, is probably the least good looking boot, but it's still getting 10 points. And then next up, these two next to each other, I really like the looks of both of these boots, but I think the silhouette of the Nike is that little bit better. I do love the split sole design. I think that despite the fact we've only seen one color from this so far, I think the Nike's just that little bit better and there's more options to choose from. So I would be least good looking is the Ultra, despite being a very good looking boot. Then maybe the Ghosted, but again, I love it. And then the Nike takes the win. But they're all good looking boots. Don't make your decision based on the looks of boots. 10 points across the board. And finally, the fit and comfort round, which is really, really hard. So, of these boots, I think the most comfortable one is potentially the Puma Ultra, because it's going to accommodate most people. It has the most width through the forefoot and through the midfoot, and it's going to be a very accommodating boot. If you have a wide foot, this should pretty much fit you. And on the whole, it's a very comfortable boot to wear, and the lightweight nature does help that as well. I don't have any complaints here in terms of the comfort, although I would personally like the boot as a whole to be lower volume and fit me a bit tighter, because it is supposed to be a speed boot. And this is a speed boot battle, so I don't necessarily want to just hand it out 10 points for being the most comfortable boot. It doesn't seem right, because the fit itself doesn't lend itself to a speed boot. In terms of sizing, if you do want to know, I've already said that the width is pretty wide. Most people should be able to wear it. In terms of length, I would go down half a size here. I've got these in a UK 7.5 instead of my usual UK 8, which is actually an EU 41 in Puma, which I never really wear. But the Ultra and the Future, I both have in the same size. So down half a size is my advice for that one. If we switch over and get to the X Ghosted 0.1, this is the most speed boot-like fit in my opinion. It really wraps around your foot. It follows every single contour of your foot. However, with that said, because it's a synthetic material, it also tends to crease up a little bit. So you get little bumps and pieces, especially when you're pushing off, because of the nature of the material, which can affect the comfort of the boot. I could potentially argue that this is the least comfortable of the three, but it's not a boot that I would describe as uncomfortable. I did have to break in the heel area when I got this, which wasn't the case with the other two, which I managed to pretty much just slip straight into. So on the whole, in comfort terms, reasonable, if not outstanding. In fit terms, again, down half a size here to get the closest to the ball possible fit that I could. And width-wise, it's a reasonably narrow boot that I don't recommend for people with wide feet. I think you're going to struggle with it. Give it a go, it's not awful, but it's not on my recommended list. Then the Mercurial, which I would advise hitting true to size. So whatever your regular size is in your Nike boots, pick that up. This will be absolutely fine. I think this wraps your foot really nicely and the comfort is surprisingly good for a speed boot. I'd say it's not as accommodating for most people as the Ultra is going to be, but I do find this to be a comfortable boot and more so than what you're going to get from the X. Width-wise, again, reasonably narrow and not something that I recommend for people with wide feet. But with the details kind of there, the fit, the comfort, we're looking for tight wraps because it's a speed boot battle, but do we punish the Puma for fitting more people and being a boot that's more open to fitting more people? I'm rambling. It's because I'm delaying, because I don't know where to put the points. I'll get back to you. Okay, to summarize. Ghosted. Most speed boot-like fit, least comfortable. Puma. Most comfortable, least speed boot-like fit. Vapor. Really nice speed boot-like fit and some comfort. So it's not the best in terms of comfort, but it's also not the best in terms of the speed boot-like fit, but it's very good in both categories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you decide. So here we have the three options. Put down in the comments 10 points, 9 points, 8 points. Which one would you give the top score to? Which one would you give the middle score to? Which one would you give the bottom score to? I'm going to leave it blank. I'm going to give you my total scores and my winner based on the scores that I've given so far. And then at some point, I'll go back through all the comments, I'll total up all of the options and I'll average it out and I'll apply it to the overall scores and I'll put it in the top comment, which one wins based on what you guys want. I'll also put a poll up on my community page, which is definitely going to be the easiest way for you to vote. So check out my community page there. If you're not already subscribed, get subscribed to get onto that community page. But yes, have I cheated? Have I copped out there? I'm just going to hold on a second. I'm just going to put these down and there's something, look over there. There's something over there. I'm just going to go down in my lift. Yep. It's just going down. You keep looking over there. If I've calculated that correctly, we have our winner, and it is not the boot I thought it was. So when I do these boot battles, I do them live to try and keep everything super impartial. I don't pick a winner beforehand. I don't pre-score the rounds. I just do it as I record to camera, award the points in real time, and I feel like it gives a more honest, more definitive answer to my feelings if I give you it in real time. And in this instance, I wrote some of the scores down wrong as I was going along, and I awarded a win when in actual fact, there isn't one. All three boots scored 66 points. So if you want to know which one to buy, you can listen to what I'm about to say about my personal preferences, or go back through the sections, find the sections that are the most important to you and pick out the ones that mean the biggest deal. Do you want the lightest boot? Do you want the one with the best barefoot touch? Pick out the section you want, find the winner from that boot, from that section, and it might help you choose what boot you want to buy. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot to unpack, and honestly, if somebody was to hand me any one of these three boots for the season and say this has to be your only boot, I would be perfectly happy. These are all fantastic football boots. If you do want my personal opinion, I think that the Vapor offers the best package. So this is the most refined, best overall speed boot package that you can go out and buy. The tech is just amazing, and the way that it all comes together is so seamless that it still impresses me, and I still think that it's probably the number one. However, with that said, if I was personally going to pick a boot for the season, I would probably, in fact, almost definitely pick the X Ghosted. This would probably be the one that I'd go for, purely because it's the most absolutely insane. It's the one that offers the most crazy barefoot feeling, and it's the one that just conforms to your foot and is a bit claustrophobic. It's the boot that's going to appeal to the least number of people, but it appeals to me. And then the Puma Ultra, it's going to be my least favorite. It's going to be my bottom pick personally. However, if you're unsure of getting a boot, you've got a bit of a wider foot, you maybe just want to try out a speed boot for the first time, something along those lines, the Ultra has to be the way to go. It's the best value. It's got the most accommodating fit. It's not going to be too extreme in any way. I just think that this is a really, really solid option, and I would not blame anybody for picking this up. It's very good. So remember to vote for fit and comfort, which one you would go for down in the comments. Of course, let me know which one you would pick personally as well. Which one would you like to rock? Do get subscribed to the channel for all of my future videos, more boot battles, more reviews of top end boots, takedown boots. We've got everything. And please do like the video. It helps the channel out a huge amount, gets the video out to more people, which means I can make more videos. And if you do want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/bootwizard. I have to thank my Patreons because they are the best and they do keep this channel running. But that's all from me here today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a good day. From me and my speed boots, we'll see you soon.